The next example comes from an image that has been widely circulated since it was first introduced in the U.S. Department of Defense briefing on North Korea in the early 2000s. Since then, this image, which you might have already seen, has been widely used to imply that North Korea is not only poor, but it's a failed rogue state on the brink of collapse. But important to, again, question is, how is an image like this created? Well, NASA, the image has been captured by satellites from NASA, and it's captured in a nighttime view of the Korean Peninsula. But if you look at the explanation from NASA about how this image is captured, it basically talks about the need to adjust for not only daylight, but city lights, gas flares, wildfires, or reflected moonlight. In other words, other kinds of light that can get in the way of capturing this needs to be filtered out. And what's helpful about looking at this particular image is that you see the part marked with the box. And with the kind of light that it has there, you might assume, compared to other places like Japan or South Korea or China, that it's another landmass. But it's actually not a landmass. It's actually lights from fishing boats in the Yellow Sea. And so if you don't account for that, then you can see how you can expect that the image could be very well distorted. So what I do then, after I explain to the students about how these images are created, I show students this image. And I ask them, can they guess where this is? And it takes most students a couple of minutes, but they usually figure out that it's the continental United States. And the image, it's obviously much more sort of sporadic, but the image is based on a similar kind of low light imaging of the Earth at night, and it's controlled for the same kind of, sunlight, gas flares, and that sort of thing. And this one is one of the earliest images made of the United States using lights detected in 29 orbits around the Earth. And compare that to this one, which is much more obviously the continental United States. And I usually ask students, how many orbits do you think this would have taken? And it's 10 times the number of orbits it would have taken from the previous image. So this image takes 236 orbits to create, and it takes about 6 months for the satellite to capture enough data, enough light data to be able to create this image. And here's another one. So the lesson in this case can be a couple of points. Technological manipulation is necessary to produce the kinds of images we see, so it's important to inquire into how images are constructed and towards what ends. And secondly, this exercise can spark another conversation about the consumption of electric power and what it means globally. Rather than just associating plentiful electricity with prosperity, students today can be especially sensitive to environmental issues, and this slide, I think, is particularly helpful in getting students to think about the unequal distribution of energy and resources, which often translates into unequal power in international relations. If you compare North Korea here with the other parts of the world where the lowest levels of electricity are consumed, you can see that North Korea basically is in the company of South Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. In other words, it's much of the third world with a history of colonization.